First off, we'll run down to the garage and look around. I'll show you some of the stuff I've piled up. I haven't been listing, but I've sure been sourcing, but I've been real picky about my sourcing too. That's a Jobst, what is it, like for compression socks? It's new in the package, and I think I paid like $4 for it, so that should clear me a good $15 to $17. The pile looks like a pile because it's a mess. Yeah, there's one of the reasons I've got so much space is like I've got air in some of those boxes, but you can't have too many boxes, evidently. There's the beer fridge. Everybody's got to have one of those. We got a beer freezer too, which both of them leak on the floor real good, so I've got to keep everything kind of in tubs and all, but hey, they come in handy. So I love these old cameras. I'll end up picking up half a dozen or so and lotting them together. That one is another listing. It's not mine. $24, and as is, it's in pretty good, this the same kind of shape as mine, but it should go. There's a little terrarium looking greenhousey thing. Oh, these things, yeah, I tried those on, and they're like Frankenstein shoes, man. They're so stiff that I don't think they'll ever break in, but somebody needs them. Those in the listing aren't mine. Mine are like brand new. Those in the listing had some holes in the tops of them and stuff, and I think mine will go at least for that. Hope anyway. I've been playing with Bluetti stuff. We've got an EB3A there on top and an EB55. Bluetti sent me the EB55 to test out and do some videos on after I bought the EB3A. They're really cool. They don't have as much capacity. None of that stuff does as you'd hope for, but if you know what your load is and stuff, they're really handy. I'm going to start dabbling with solar panels. I've got to pick up a couple of cheap solar panels and play with that. I think that's going to open up a whole new world when I can get it to where it's charging and being more self-sufficient. There's an old, like a mid-2010 Mac that John gave me when he moved off, and those things are pretty bulletproof. It's just they don't update anymore. Oh, wanted to show you this. If you've got an old stereo, to get the input to it off of Bluetooth, these things work great. This is my second one I've had, and they're holding up really good. They sound good. Worth a try. I'll put the link in the description down there. There's my scale progression. I had a Cuisinart food scale at first, and then the second one, there was an old postal scale I got at Sam's, and then I scored that Mettler counting scale off of Craigslist for $25, so I felt pretty fortunate about that for sure, because that's about a $400 scale. Yeah, that pile, it needs to be stacked neater. There's a Baker's Edge. I've sold about 3 or 4 of those things. Man, they sell fast. That's somebody else's listing, but that's comparable to what they sell for, $35 or so. That one's is found for me, and it's perfect. It doesn't have the little plastic spatula, but it's really doesn't have any scratches or anything. It's going to go for $35. Anything REI I pick up, unfortunately, that's got a bad valve in it. I may be able to glue it and use it myself with some seam grip, but I'm not for sure about it. Oh man, I love Radio Shack stuff. That's not one of their more expensive ones, but it's complete and it hadn't been used much. That's a different one that I found a comp for. I thought it was the same one, but it's not. So mine ought to go for $20 to $25. Yeah, these are kind of weird. I picked them up. I didn't really know Nike made combat boots, but evidently they make a bunch of them. I couldn't find this exact model, so I went back downstairs and found the number on it and found this listing where they had sold for $60, and mine are cleaner than those. Those don't look beat up, but they're a little bit dirty. So I'm thinking mine will go for $60 too, at least. That's a level up Xbox and DVD movie rack. Those things have gotten pretty popular over the last years, and I've sold several of them similar to that. And that's a sold listing there for $35. So theoretically, I could get $75 out of that pair of them. I probably gave $5 for both of them. There's the box pile. It's boxes and packing material, and they just keep growing. You got to stack it higher, and but gotta have them, man. You gotta have them, because that's where it goes from. I'm here at the storage, and I brought my EB55 down. We're gonna hook it up to the lights and stuff in here and see what happens. I've got 4 55-watt shop lights in here. Light it up really nice, I think. My idea of this, although it's coming up on summer, I'm not sure how much work I can get done down here. But with this thing, I should be able to have a little remote office with this in my phone hotspot, and that's kind of the idea I'm looking at now. So that's showing like 215 watts on this thing having 700 or 537 watt hours. It ought to run those 4 lights for what, over a couple of hours, 2.5 hours at a full charge. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a little heftier than my EB3A. So while we're down here, I thought I'd just kind of wander around and show you some of the stuff in the mini storage here. It's a friggin' mess, but man, I think I got some good stuff here. If I can just get on the stick and get it listed. There's a skimmer board. I may have to go professional with that. I'm not sure. So what I've done here is hooked up the EB55, got my phone on top, and I've got the external monitor that I can use with my Apple little MacBook Air. That silly MacBook Air will run for about 3 months on a charge, so I don't really have to worry about plugging it in generally, but I could, real easy onto the power supply. Got that little fan up there mostly just for a little extra load. Well, it did feel kind of good in that breeze going on there. So hooked up to the lights and the fan, and I think I've got the studio light on that too. Yeah, I know it did. 535 indicated watts. The little charger works good on top. I've got a pop socket on my phone, so I take that pop socket off the back and it gets a little closer. I really need to pull it out of the case and see if it makes any difference. And then I think I'll run a USB cable to one of those and see what the load is on it, because it, you know, tells you what it's pumping out on the AC and the DC sides. It's a pretty neat little setup. Those lights, I think I mentioned, they're 55 watts a piece. They're nice and bright. They were like 20 bucks at Harbor Freight. Okay, there's my studio light. That thing's got one of those ancient halogen bulbs in it that you could make a grilled cheese sandwich by setting on top of it. It pulls like 250 watts, I think. Okay, there's the plug for it. So I'm going to unplug the studio light. You can see it goes down like to half from one light. It's got that coil type bulb inside and then an external glass shell. I should have got a picture of it. It's probably 50s technology, but it does put out some pretty good light. I've just got to kind of point it at the back of the mini storage to kind of sort of light stuff up. Mostly got it there for a load more than anything. And but it does put out the light. I sure wouldn't be normally running it. I'm just kind of playing with things now to see how long it's gonna hold up and how many hours I can get out of it under different loads. I think it's kind of fun to plug stuff in and just see if it'll run it or not, you know. And it does a pretty good job. My little EB3A is nice too. It just doesn't have the horsepower. I think this EB55's got about twice the watt hours in it. It's pretty substantial. Plus it weighs about 16 pounds. This area back here there's my old dreaded steel weed eater. I need to get that sucker out pretty quick because got some grass found to cut a corner of. Don't have much closet space here at the house, so I've got all my bigger stuff, wetsuits, and that's a pair of Fowlies for offshore fishing, which I'm not ever done, but hey, I've got the gear if I want to. There's the pile of records that John gave me when he moved off, and I just, for giggles, I grabbed one of them, one of the first ones, and popped it out and looked at it, and then looked it up, and it's the Kinks Muswell Hillbillies. One of them sold for 21 bucks. These little things that I've popped up here are pretty well all sales, unless I couldn't find something that was the same, and then I might have put another listing up. But just to kind of give you some idea what's laying around there. While I was not listing, I was still sourcing, but I was really picky about my sourcing. If I couldn't make 15, 20 bucks on it, I just didn't get it. There's my tent. When I first got that thing, it's massive. A big old REI Kingdom 8. It's in kind of a backpack, and I didn't want it to get all beat up, so I found that Samsonite luggage, or the Samsonite suitcase, fits in it perfect. And I've toted it all over the place with it, and it's still in great shape. This is the shelving. I've got some of my junk on there, and then I've got some of the stuff to sell on there. I got to get those Sonys sort of cleaned up and pieced together, and might donate them. I don't think they're going to be worth really much, but they're kind of neat. John gave me those too. He liked the sound of them, so he'd gathered them up over the years. That's a keyboard stand, a little X thing, so I can put it on the ground and pull one of those totes off of it, off the rack, and set it down on there. I don't have to drop it on the ground, and it helps me locate the stuff on it a little easier. That's a bad deal right there, that Bragg Power Cube. I found two of those things, and I looked them up, and I'm like, man, they're 75 bucks a piece. What a deal. Got that one all boxed and made and sent in, and got my listing done to eBay, and I got a strike against it. Like, you can't sell this. It's a medical device. So strangely enough, I took that sold $75 thing right off of eBay where somebody else had sold one, but I guess they got lucky. That's a nemesis there. Those are air filters. I thought they were going to be a great deal. Paid 40 bucks for that huge box of them. There's a couple hundred of them in there, I think. inventoried them once, and yeah, it wasn't a great thing. There's that other Bragg unit that you put the ice in. I kicked one of them in. It works great. Something I was scrounging around. I found those. I got those at a garage or a yard sale here about 3 years ago, and didn't really think much about them. But they're a Phoenix brand, and HP30. They got an external battery case. You can see it dangling there. They're kind of a caving, hunting type light, and those suckers were not cheap back in the day. They were probably $75 a piece. I paid like $10 a piece for them and got a charger, so I'm going to use them for some photographical stuff. That's an IKEA light fixture, and there's two more of them. That one's a 45 millimeter. It's shown there. It's $45, and the one that's in the box is $35, but probably about the same money. And then I've got two more, but they've been assembled, and I'm going to have to flatten them out. Oh, man, I like the looks of that. They had some great graphics on some of those I looked up, but that's that skim board. I just thought it was so cool. I think I paid $5 for it. It's not skinned up. I got another one that's kind of barked up on the bottom. It's not as neat as that one, but I think I'll fill it and throw some varnish on it and see what I can do. That black thing there left there is a pizza oven, countertop one. I really don't need to be messing with that because I'm already eating enough pizza. That's a chin-up bar, that thing with the foam grips that are red and gray striped. Back during the pandemic days, man, I sold the heck out of those things. Every time I'd get one, I'd sell it and make 25 or 30 bucks on it. That's one of my not better buys. I think I got about 2 dozen or 30 or so of those Smurf glasses. There you can see the EB55 hooked up with all the connections on it. I've got that orange one goes to the shop lights, and then I've got that one going, like I said, to the studio light, one to the fan, one to the monitor. And it's pulling them just fine. I think that mini storage is 10 by 40. I know it's big. I was going crazy for a while, but I was in a 10 by 10 and then a 10 by 20 and a 10 by 30. And I think this is a 10 by 40, but not just storing stuff. You got to move around. Okay, well, I've rambled on enough. Thanks for dropping by. I sure appreciate it. If you would, like and subscribe. It sure does help the channel. I sure appreciate you watching, and hope to see you again sometime. Take her easy.